Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our August 18th, 2025 Board of County Commissioners 9 a.m. Strategic Planning Meeting. Let the record reflect that we have 4 commissioners present. Commissioner Jordan is attending a different meeting, so he will not be able to be here this morning. So we have Commissioner Kearns, Commissioner French, Commissioner Walter, and Commissioner CUNY here in the conference room. Looks like we've got a pretty busy schedule, so we're going to just get going. So we're going to start off with Tori Peterson. No, Tori's not here. Do I have the wrong? Sorry, I got the wrong one up here. Ben Bravo. Sorry, Tori's tomorrow morning. So
Very good. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, and good morning.
Commissioners, we have several things we've been working on here, but we decided to kind of bring them all together so you can have a more comprehensive picture of these. This has to do with a large chunk of the fees. You can see those bullets there are 4 different groups: a right-of-way and roads group, development services, floodplains, and then sewer. And this is principally when we're working with the public or outside customers for the services we provide. We haven't taken a comprehensive look at these in a very long time. So we wanted to bring them all before you in one swoop to the best of our ability. And there's kind of 2 big components to this. One are the areas where we are not recovering the costs associated with our services, so review and inspection services. And then the other really has to do with kind of a very customer unfriendly approach to the way we bill when we're doing hourly billing and continuing to send bills to our customers long after the fact. And the restructuring of that is really based on the feedback we've been receiving from our customers, that they are very interested in seeing these changes. This is really something they have asked of us and are pulling us in the direction which we think is totally appropriate and supportable. Will make both of our lives a lot easier. Did I miss an overview?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so we'll start walking you through some proposed fees and get any feedback you may have on each of the various sections.
Yeah, so there's the 4 sections that we have, and we have a crew here. If there's questions on specifics on these, but the first one we start with is the right-of-way fees. And Chris, if you want to join us, Chris Martin manages our right-of-way permitting group. Go to the next slide, please.
So it looks like we started off with our utility permits. These are right-of-way permits for work that's being done in the right-of-way. Currently, we charge $125, and then we bill our contractors anytime we go out and inspect it. So the new fee, the current fee is $125. The proposed fee is $250. That fee will now cover the inspection. So we will charge one-time upfront fee. Kind of works the same with our utility mains, which are there's a little more involved in utility main permits. Those will go to $400. They were $200. And again, we nickel and dime them for inspections anytime we drove out the site. So our utility companies are really on board with this. It's going to clean up a lot of our billing, just reduce the cost of sending out monthly statements.
Chris, can you confirm that's supposed to be 400? We have it wrong on the slide.
Yeah, it should be 400.
Apologize. There's a typo on that slide. We'll get that corrected for you. Should you want to move forward with that, but that's the second line there is supposed to be 400 proposed.
The engineering construction permit is permits that the permits for the work that's in the right of way for any plat development. And so those are a little more involved as well. They can have sidewalk, sometimes islands. So there's a little more involved in those 2. But again, I think the current fee for engineering construction was also $125, which is way under what's really involved in those permits. The proposed fee for that is 500. Those involve a lot more inspections. Just one other point, we looked at actual costs, but we also we tried to be really comparable with the other jurisdictions. So we looked at Liberty Lake, City of the Valley, City of Spokane. All of these proposed fees fall really close within what the other jurisdictions are doing. I think that's all I have. The swell permit, that is not, it's not my permit, but I do have an explanation on those. The current fee for a swell permit is $250. The proposed fee is $725, and again, that's going to include the inspections. That $725 is an adjustment for inflation and analysis of staff hours spent. And that when they did that analysis, the average cost was about $710 to conduct the administrative tasks and inspections. So that's how they got to the $725. And then the surety bond, which is returned after the final inspection of the swell, is currently $2,000. But to cover the actual cost, their proposal is $200 times the swell length.
Varies based on the size of the facility.
That does cover all of my events. But again, I didn't really touch on the approach. The approach permits, those, we didn't adjust the cost. We did increase the surety to $3,500 to cover the actual cost of the replacement if a builder doesn't construct the approach. But what we've done, we'd like to keep the surety just in case we need it. But what we're doing instead is we worked with the building department to tie the urban approach to certificate of occupancy. So if you don't complete your approach, you can't get your certificate of occupancy. That has worked really well for our contractors, and we have a lot of support for that as well.
Yeah, and I think the board's aware, but there's a couple of things at play here. Our building community would rather we don't hold an enormous amount of their cash in the form of bonds for the entire project. But we need something motivational. I mean, when the sureties are so low, they just walk away from them because it's cheaper than trying to remediate whatever the issues are with the approaches and the swales. So the hope would be by tying it to occupancy, that's obviously motivational for them, but also doesn't tie up a lot of their capital, which is a big deal to the building community. So it's kind of a win-win. Feedback I've had regarding that change is very positive.
And I do have commitments from utility companies and builders that would come speak in support of these changes if we have them.
So in terms of hard costs for the county, which of these actually result in hard costs to the county and which of them are retrievable for cost? Here's where I'm going. If we wanted to encourage low-income housing, we could adopt a policy that said these are going to be the fees that are due at the time of issuing the certificate of occupancy, as opposed to prior to construction. Again, you talked a little bit about how much cash outlay they have. Well, we're going to be providing these services and paying the salaries regardless of whether the inspections are going on or not. So could we, as a way to encourage low-income housing, say, we're going to defer the collection of the fees until the issuance of certificate of occupancy, and then we can get guaranteed the payment at that time?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I've never even heard that idea. So it's a thought, because as you know, it costs them money to carry that.
It costs money up front, and the more that we can show that we're reducing that carrying cost. Otherwise, they got to finance the fees, roll it into the construction loan, pay interest on it and stuff. So while it might be, $250 for us, by the time they get through with construction and stuff, it could be actually $3.25 and stuff. And so I'm just trying to find ways to reduce the cost upfront, kind of a deal. So And, you know, for a market rate housing, it's not gonna be a big mover. For low income housing, it could be a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, if you roll all the permitting costs together, it's a substantial amount of money. Yeah, no, it's a really interesting idea, and you hold occupancy, so you have, and they can do it with their end loan, right, instead of doing it with the construction loan that has all the additional costs with it.
Yeah, and one way or the other, you're gonna get paid because they gotta get a C of O. And they bring everything current with the C of O,
Yeah, really interesting.
so. Just an idea. That's why I'm here.
I think I've heard that before from.
Yeah.
That would really make it easier to get off the ground. I like that idea.
Any other questions or concerns about the right of way fees in particular?
How does this line up with, I guess you'd say, our competitors, you know, the other jurisdictions?
Very closely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did market research on our local competitors and then some spot checks around the state as well, and right. You have the next slide, Rob? Okay, here's an eye test.
Yeah, and I worked on this one personally just because of my history with land development and did also a comparison to City of Spokane and City of Spokane Valley. Recently, the City of Spokane actually had FCS do a pretty heavy analysis of their rates. And they do a little different setup. They actually put a valuation to each project, whether it's a subdivision project or whether it's a commercial project, and then they base their fees on that valuation. So that's a little different approach. It's a fairer approach, a little more time intensive on their end, but you can imagine a big project pays more. So kind of works out. We're not proposing that initially. We're proposing just a flat rate. What I hear from the development community is they're much less concerned about the rates than they are about responsiveness. Time is money to them. So the quicker we can respond, they don't have an issue with a fee. And also it gives them predictability. They don't know how much it costs when it's by the hour. If it's a flat rate, they can build it into their project financials and they know where they're going to be. So there's a couple of pretty significant advantages to them. And I didn't have any negative feedback about going to a fee-based structure. And things are going to be much more expensive than we were. We were essentially subsidizing land development. The last time we went through our fee structure, there was support for that at the board level of not fully recovering costs. Obviously, we're in the new age and finances are tight and 110. So fully recovering all of our costs is a much bigger concern these days. And the way we did these fees is essentially to recover in a typical year. If we have a slow year permitting wise, then it wouldn't necessarily recover, just like the building department. But in a busy year, it might have a surplus, but over time it should balance out. We will reanalyze them year to year and see how we're shaking out and maybe do a 3 or 5 year look back and just see how things are going and adjust them as needed. And at some point we may go to the valuation system. It's more fair to do it that way. You know, the larger projects pay a larger fee, the smaller ones pay a smaller one. So there is some impetus to do that. We did split up long plats into over 29 lots and under 29 lots. 30 lots is where you have a second access issue, and it's kind of a logical breakover for us to split out fees a little bit at that level. But we think this is pretty fair, pretty representative. It was based upon essentially hours worked on each type of projects and the number of projects we see in a year, and then just dividing up the costs that we need to recover for that group. Happy to answer any questions about it.
So you said the valuation is maybe more fair, but it also takes a lot more staff time to administer. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, essentially what the City of Spokane would do with you if you had a project is they'd tell you right in your application up front, how many feet of road, how many feet of curb, how much sewer pipe, how much water pipe. And they take that and presumably put it into a spreadsheet to come up with a valuation. And then your fees are based on that valuation as some percentage of it. So, you know, when we're doing design work or construction inspection, you know, it's 10% or kind of the industry norms. And it's very similar to that. And then you have to pay those fees before they even review your first set of plans. So they're assured of collection that way too, because they collect them right up front before they look at your project. Little different system, but people don't dislike it. Again, there's predictability to it. You can know what your fees are gonna be with your project.
But you're not proposing that here. You're proposing just a flat fee, but you do have a variation of larger developments versus smaller.
Yep, we've just done a little bit of segregation for now, and we'll see how it goes. You know, we may find that it's not representative enough and that it's unfair to extremely small projects or not charging enough to large projects. But for now, I think it'll be reasonably good, and we'll just see what we think of it over time. We can always adjust in the future.
So when's the last time the fees were adjusted?
I did them with Miriam Barentine about 15 years ago. And most of our fees are hourly too. Which is really fair, right? I mean, if you have a good consultant and you have a small project, it's a pretty small fee. But if you have a consultant where we're going back and forth, and maybe a good consultant argues with us, that can be debated. But if there's a lot of back and forth, you pay more. And if it's a large project, you pay more because it's all by the hour. But there's a lot of challenges. The other challenge we didn't hit on is we're hearing from our finance folks that Workday does not readily accommodate setting everybody up as a vendor for that hourly reimbursement. There's a lot of challenges inside Workday, and that was part of the initiative for why we wanted to go to a fee-based structure.
And the predictability for our customers, they just know they don't just keep getting bills and bills and bills and bills. Just another piece of feedback we've consistently heard.
So I'd like to suggest that maybe you spend some time with Pat Bell and work out the messaging, because I can see the headline, county increases fees by $250 to $3,000. And, the message that you send is that, we're anti-development, and that's clearly not, but the idea that we haven't increased fees for 15 years. And that this is bringing us current with other market standards. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the messaging. Otherwise, the headline is going to be $250 to $3,000. Don't feel bad, the earth is falling apart.
For sure. No, it's happy to do that. Talk to a lot of those folks pretty routinely and to deliver that message and get any feedback they have. I've been talking to people about it as I visit with them on other subjects. It's been predominantly positive.
So I guess, what I'd like to see is if you can provide for me kind of what it currently is for someone that they're building the house, because I mean, talking about hourly fees, I'm not seeing hourly in here or any of that. I would like to see some kind of comparison, which I think would help with the messaging as to what does it currently cost someone, and then what will it cost? Just to, in a couple of, like, probably a home and a commercial project. Just because a lot of homeowners see it, they're gonna see it themselves. So I mean, I wanted that, just to get an understanding as to what this really, because I agree, it seems like a huge increase, but if it's really not as much as we think. And again, if it not having increased since, fees for 15 years, I mean, we definitely have to do that. And I think, speaking to the fund where we're trying to, just like at the health district, as we leave fees there, trying to recover our costs, so the fees have to reflect that. But I'd like to kind of see what that comparison would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should have been more clear on this, but it's important to note this isn't for any individual home. None of these fees apply. These are just for building a subdivision or building a big commercial project.
Okay.
So, this won't hit the individual homeowner except for that it comes through in the lot price, obviously, for whatever you charge, but that's split out between all the lots. So there is that, but homeowners don't get charged any of these fees for people building on an individual lot. This is just for subdivisions being built or a commercial project being built.
Okay, but as you said, it will come down to the consumer and increase the cost.
For sure. Yeah. Happy to provide you with some of that information.
Thank you.
And so on the preliminary long plat, if you've got 30 lots, you're gonna pay the 500, or you're actually gonna pay the 7,250. If you got 100 lots, you're gonna pay 7,250. So the cost per lot is higher.
Yep.
The less you build. Okay.
Based on our UGA.
What's that?
So based on the UGA, there's not a lot of big lots left,
No.
so.
And Commissioner, just to kind of bring it back to the approach here, I think we need to continue to keep our eyes on this and refine moving forward, but we are 15+ years behind and way far away from cost recovery. You know, the kind of metric we use was what are we working on? What are we spending our hours on? And we tried to build this the best we can. I think there's always room for improvement on it, but we're so far away from cost recovery in this program. It's important to start moving in that direction.
Well, and again, we did compare to our market peers and we were not out of line. So, you know, they're seeing this from the city of Spokane, they're seeing it from the valley, they're seeing it from Airway Heights and the other neighboring communities. It isn't unusually high compared to anybody. It's right in keeping with our community partners.
I ask, how many hours, how many man hours or working hours go into a preliminary long plat over 29 lots? I mean, at that price, when you're talking cost recovery, I mean, how many hours does it take for one of our employees to do that work?
You
Or how
know,
many employees does it take to do that work?
yeah, correct. We have 14 hours budgeted for
Right.
that. And that's across a number of different people. You know, there's administrative people that initially process the applications. We look at them for initial conditioning. We go to the public hearing. There's a lot of steps inside the process. Oftentimes our land surveyor will get involved initially on some of the conditioning and different things too. So there's a bunch of people touching it. No one person spends 14 hours, but collectively that's typical. That's when we talk to staff, that's about where they are on just a typical long plan.
Now, with the current fee, that's the current flat fee, or that's the current hourly fee?
That's just a lot of these are by the hour.
Okay,
Almost all the ones that are blank there are just by the hour. They don't
Okay.
have an initial.
okay. Because I mean, the 14 hours, if the 7,250 divided by 14, it's 517 per hour. So I wasn't sure if maybe that 500 was our current hourly rate. I mean, because if that's the case, then this isn't a huge increase at all if that's what we're currently charging per hour. But if we do go to the 7,250, if it takes an average of 14 hours, that is a little over $500 an hour.
Yeah, on preliminary plats in particular, we don't normally have an agreement to pay fee for a significant portion of the process even in place. So a lot of it is just administrative time that's not currently being recovered.
Okay.
So it's kind of a symbiosis of a lot of things, and our hourly rate is not nearly as high as it should be. Our hourly rates they aren't even loaded with benefits currently. It's strictly the hourly rate, so there's a lot of things. We just were not cost recovering, and that was a conscious decision at the point. There was conversation around it, and the decision was made not to recover and to somewhat subsidize that effort.
So if you're gonna come in and you're going to amend a conditional use permit, is there a different fee, or do we charge them the fee for a new permit? And
Yeah, and some of these, we just weren't recovering at all, like comprehensive plan amendments, we weren't covering. We would just give them our comments, and it wasn't a huge amount of time, it's just a handful of hours, unless it was a large one. Sometimes we get really big comprehensive plan proposals that do take a bunch of time and they actually do traffic on them. If there gets to be a lot of work, they would normally have them sign an agreement, pay fee and start charging to it by the hour. But on some of the smaller, more mundane and like conditional use ones, sometimes there's no involvement on public works part. You know, it's just a cursory review. We review the file and we sign off on it. But all that takes time too. So it's kind of a mixed bag. We're trying to segregate this out a little bit, but not get carried away. Some of these we may not charge for, like tenant improvements are another example. We're in the workflow, but we almost don't comment on them at all. Rarely a time where unless it triggers site improvements.
So I have a constituent that has an existing conditional use permit that allows up to 32 residences on the property. He wants to increase it to 50, so he's gonna come in and do an amendment to the existing conditional use permit, allow him to do that additional 18 units. So does he pay $3,000 for an amendment that's really gonna be no work, because you're not doing anything other than changing one number?
Yeah, if it's something like that where we're essentially signing off and we don't have work involved, they would charge that fee.
Okay.
It's still not clicking to me how you're getting to the dollar. I mean, you're talking cost recovery. Is there really $7,250 worth of work that's done by the county to do a preliminary long plat over 29 lots? I guess the math isn't mathing for me. I'm not getting it.
We're building everything in that we should be building in. Before, we didn't have our overhead, we didn't have cost allocation. Everything that we pay to be here is built into these rates now, where it was not before. So those are significant. You start loading those on top of a loaded salary of an employee. And a lot of these processes were not recovered at all. They were just charged to admin. I tell you 3/4 of it was just charged to admin. So, you combine all those things, you charge for our actual time, and then you load on everything, overhead, cost allocation, everything else we pay. This is the number. We're trying to essentially recover $1 million from this group of fees.
Oh, the only thing it is a big jump, but it sounds like other jurisdictions are charging similar. I mean, the only thing I could think of to lessen the big jump would just to do like 2 years, like a staggered fee schedule over 2 to 3 years, but maybe you could come back and just show us the comparisons. That would be helpful.
Yeah, happy to share.
I didn't write you guys good. I think we just want to see some more information before we make decisions. So.
Happy to. We have time on this, so it's happy to share any information.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, we as commissioners we have to be comfortable with making these changes. I know it's been 15 years and there's a lot that's feeding into it that, but I think it's hard when you're just showing one number and another number and not giving us the details where we can really look at that and see it, to know why you're making the decision. So we're just, I can see we're all just asking for more information before we make that decision.
Happy to.
Thank you.
This question, so there's no SEPA review on any of these. You guys are involved with the SEPA review, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, there's currently a SEPA review fee on it. I think it's $500 or something, and SEPA is usually ran by lead agency, which would be the building department on commercial and planning department on land use. Our part is just reviewing our portion of SEPA, which is fairly limited.
Okay.
I go to the next one.
Yeah, so we have a couple more fees. The next slide, this one is floodplain fees, which is Nicole Henson is here to share information on that. This program is similar to the last one. It's a substantial cost increase, and it's trying to recover costs for the floodplain program. So the floodplain program right now exists in Fund 110, and fees are there, the current fees by project. This does generally it's for a development, for a home. There's the majority of them we see. So our fees were last increased in 2012, and you can see the cost increases there. Office review. Commercial. And we have two types of surety. We need something back from them. So we're proposing an increase in surety to be sure that we get that information back from the property owner. Alternatively, we also have it set up as well to use a certificate of occupancy where that is required for a project. We can use that instead of surety to be sure to get elevation certificates or as-built drawings. So it's a similar thing. Costs are increasing, but this is on an average year. This is to recover costs for the floodplain program on a typical year. The majority of our permits are office review only. But when it does involve field visits, it can get complicated. People have multiple visits and kind of brainstorming of how things would work.
Before Nicole pops in here, I'll also just mention that we are being asked more and more on this side of the program here. A lot of the easy developable property in our community is developed, built upon. And we're seeing a lot more work in the floodplain group on challenging parcels that are requiring a lot more intricate analysis and site inspection. And we are, I think, did we find out we are the cheapest in the state right now?
Yes.
Yeah. So did you want to go into any of these in particular?
I think probably the biggest thing would be, obviously, I've already heard it from everybody, is trying to get the cost recovery, so the increases are significant. The other thing is, we do a lot of, as Kyle said, a lot more intricate information studies. So a lot more floodplain studies are coming in, and those take a lot of time back and forth with the engineer, reviewing, and so adding that on top of their permit fees is that floodplain study of 1,500 flat fee. So if we go back and forth 20 times, it's still the same. I think that is.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about floodplain fees is ideally people wouldn't build in an area that's designated as a floodplain. So it's this, we end up working with property owners that come in to ask a lot of information. It takes a lot of time, but never get a permit because they either choose to build where there isn't a property, you know, they're outside of the floodplain, or they may or may not buy that property because it's encumbered by a floodplain. And so those we don't recover any fee because that's just an information sharing, but it does take up quite a bit of time. And so the intent is to recover that cost through the program, through properties that do actually get a permit.
I mean, I get it, but it's also property owners understand, and so we are the ones that have to let them know. You know, some of them are buying property thinking they can build on it, and then because of regulations and everything that's come down, we have to be the ones to let them know. Which I would hate to be charging them a fee to tell them that they can't build on the property.
No, absolutely. And really, we would never tell someone, no, they can't build. I mean, it's that somebody can make a decision and it gets complicated. The construction can be very complicated if they were to choose to go forward. The majority of the properties, there's built space, and another piece too is remodels. In office review, we end up with a fair number of remodels or people, and that's would be covered in office. So that's a big part. Permits that we collect.
How many, I mean, I guess that the other question I would have, like, how many of these happen each, you know, on kind of all these fees? It'd be nice to know current quantities of people that are, you know, seeking this information, and these fees would be charged to.
So we have that analysis, I think, just for 2023.
Yeah.
And it varies year to year, but
Yeah, so in 2023 for the Aqua Review, there was 111 permits. There was 50 for residential and 5 commercial. And then for the flood study review in 2023, there would have been 4 of those. Okay.
And we can put that together more clearly.
Yeah, I
but
think that would be good information for us to know, just as we're looking at these. Again, just to know how many times it's happening, you know, all of that. Just. Yeah, because this just doesn't give us that ability to know. Like, and on the ones ahead of it, you know, the same thing, like how you're 29 and under plats versus 29 and over plats, you know, they're coming in. It just helps us know and be making a well-informed decision.
Right, so the way that we set this up, just the current collection is about $13,000 a year in permit fees in that example year, and the proposed fees we collect about 130,000, so about 10 times, so that's for cost recovery.
And that's just for floodplain.
Correct, that's just for floodplain, and then if there's no other questions, we have one more with sewer.
And just, other than this next group, whatever we don't recover, all comes out of the road fund. So the road fund subsidizes all of our lack of cost recovery.
The next slide.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we're not gonna do these.
No, yeah.
We just need to be making an informed decision instead of just go, here's the fee, here's the next fee. And not knowing the context and how it was developed and how many times it happened. You know, just to me, that's all part of the analysis that you guys already did do. You know, we're just not getting that information to make an informed decision.
We could absolutely provide as much as you'd like. We're trying to balance how many numbers and how small a font we use, but we'll build you something that gives you a little more context and helps you understand the process that the teams have gone through to kind of get there and inform us if you want to push a certain direction or another. You know, we did the best we could with looking at what our total spend is, what's the body of work, and trying to find a nice medium in the middle, and we'll help you with those numbers, and we'll come back and bring
I
all
think
that.
this is a great, you know, it's just gonna take more than one touch to get there.
That's the first one in 15 years. So sewer fees here, Sandra's here with us today to help walk us through some of ours. These aren't quite as traumatic. I think we've touched these before. It probably hasn't been quite as long, but.
Nearly as long.
Oh, really?
So,
Turn.
yeah, so the first page here, we've kind of just on the spreadsheet have our general fee types. We started with our permit fees. You can see the current fees listed there, which involve an administrative fee, so that $157 basically for these permits. Kind of along the same lines as what everyone's talking about. We just spend more time than that getting these permits. Our permit fees also involve inspection. So this covers our inspection fee for our guys going out in the field, making sure this is okay. We generally hope that goes well and that goes in one visit, but you know, if it doesn't, that just multiplies, you know, our things that we're not recovering costs for. We're not proposing to charge hourly fees. We have the ability to do that in our current code. However, it's just cumbersome, and as Matt kind of mentioned, you know, with the new workday and things, it's just very difficult for everyone to try to keep track of that and then send another bill to the customer. So we really are trying to keep all of our fees as lump sum fees, whether it's for permits or inspections, or as you'll see later here with our plan reviews. So that's what we were going for. So this first page, like I said, has got permits on it. It's got some of our administrative fees, you know, basically just trying to increase for what we're spending on these. We haven't seen increases for, you know, I think 2009 was the last time I could find good solid data by resolution that we increased these. So it's been a really long time. The additional and oversized sewer step fees at the bottom, those are regard to if a customer comes in and wants an additional sewer step installed to their property when we're doing a sewer project, you know, to me, the fee on here is pretty minimal based on that's the same fee we've been charging for So just an increase there to try to capture our costs. I don't know if you have any questions on this page. We have one more page just to list the rest of our fees here.
So define for me what you mean by a callback.
A callback. So we are doing an inspection and our inspector goes out there and finds something's wrong. You don't have the right piece of material, you've installed it wrong, you have to fix it. So our inspector leaves, the contractor fixes it, he's gotta call us back to come back when he's got it fixed to make sure that it's right.
So how would you handle a call for an inspection? The inspector gets out there and the project is not ready for inspection.
We also have that. Right. It's in our fees for. Remember which one that is, Commissioner? I'm sorry, but see,
Well,
it's
that's
handled the same way, basically, if they're,
Okay.
and that might have been lumped into our callback category there, but same idea.
Okay. Yeah, I know sometimes builders get aggressive about what they can and cannot do before the inspector gets there.
Right.
And doggone it, I missed it by a half hour and now the inspector's got to come back.
I
Yeah.
think they're rarely charged for that now.
Like never.
They're not charged for that now, but under the new fee structure, they will be. Okay,
Kind of the inspector's discretion.
yeah,
And part of that is we're trying to get the contractors to also to be a little more respectful of our time,
oh, sure.
you know, and not just kind of abuse us in that sense of, oh, you know, we changed our mind, we decided to work on this, or, you know, again, scheduling a specific time, our guys show up, they're not ready. You know,
Yeah.
and then we just either sit around and wait for them or have to come back. So
Yeah.
trying to just make them accountable for, call us when you're ready, we'll do our job, you do your job. And, you know, try and make it fair to everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
So the next slide, again, is just kind of the rest of our sewer fees that we're proposing increases on. These are related to sewer plan review. Right now, are in the category that looks more, maybe more complicated. So our commercial review and our public mainline review, we currently charge a flat fee of $200 to start with, and then depending on the length of sewer that they're installing, it's 50 cents a lineal foot. So as the project gets bigger, the fee gets bigger. And we're trying, what we've created, and you're not seeing it on this spreadsheet, and if it would help, we can send that to you as well. But we've created some just tiers of, for us to build lump sum. So if you're constructing up to 400 million feet, we'll charge you this flat fee. And then the next tier is between 400 and, I can't remember the number, but say 1,000 lineal feet, it's the next fee, but it's a lump sum fee instead of trying to go back and actually calculate, you know, you were 412 lineal feet, not, you know, and charging that way. So we've created tiers, which is why you're seeing this variation in fee on this table here. But again, just to try to make things more simple, our customers would appreciate that, and it would make it easier for us as well. Takes away some of the administrative time of looking at that, trying to make sure those are right. It streamlines everything. So again, trying to capture fees that we're spending on these projects. For plan review, our fees, you know, really incorporate a lot of work behind the scenes that nobody sees and nobody thinks about. We track these projects for, you know, from inception all the way through construction complete, you know, them going through whether it's their private inspectors and certification packages, TV inspections of these lines, we review them, you know, back and forth all the way with our ops people. And there's a lot of time that gets spent that just quite honestly is accounted for in our fees. So our increases are in an attempt to get more in line with what we're spending, and then, you know, also simplify things as far as our tiers. So any questions about those?
Sorry, we went a little long on that, commissioners. We'll put some additional data together to show about number of projects, some comparables. And come back for a second touch when members like to.
No, I think that'd be great, and I think too, just because all these fees. Again, how does this affect like new, just a single family home? Some of them do, some of them don't. Kind of get the idea of what that increase is to the individual, so.
Okay.
Right.
We fully expected this would be a multiple touch as the team's introducing them to the commissioners. We're gonna have another conversation tomorrow where our planning department will come in and also propose some similar fee evaluations that haven't been updated in some time. Also comparisons to other cities and counties as well. So again, it's introducing some of this stuff, reevaluating after many years, and likely could be multiple touches with planning as well. So no expectations of the on the spot decision.
No, and I know we need to, I mean, it's kind of, we're doing all this analysis there. With all the sewer fees and all of that they do as well. Just to get that, get the fee schedule set before we set the budget. So we do know there's timing to get this done prior to setting the budget. So no, it's good timing. We just need, time to.
Thank you for your time this morning.
Okay, thank you all for being here. Appreciate everybody.
Having a special, we need to take care of that other item. We want 5 minutes.
Okay.
Kicking off the first of our department budget
There we go.
Presentations.
You guys remember the sheet that we've been working on with all the different departments? When they're gonna come present, so this is the first of many. The only one today. And so we'll begin with some.
Okay.
We had a couple others, but they needed to change for different reasons.
Jeff, I know you gave us hard copies of that. I was trying to find the email. Was that ever
I didn't-
emailed to us?
I didn't because I'm now in the process of going around and confirming.
Okay.
And of course, people have vacations and what have you, so it is shifting. I could give you guys each the link that updates in real time, so you can always look at it and see it as it shifts. Maybe that's what I'll just do.
I knew we had you gave us the hard copy, which I, of course, left here at the office, and
It's
then
already updated.
at home this weekend, I was trying to find it in the email. I'm like, it's in here somewhere, right? And it's not.
I'll send around an updated. I think I've landed the ones that I thought might be the most challenging, the longer timeframe ones. So I think at this point, I'm gonna hand it off to Rebecca to do the rest. And I've identified a few that are flexible, so we'll do them last and plug them in after the other people are settled. But today we're starting with
Public records.
and it just will be a theme, this is a small agency, obviously. Different challenges for different folks. Big agencies are cutting by the millions, but it's still 7%. They also have more spaces to cut. Small groups of single digit, much tighter budgets. But this will be the beginning. Take it away.
Yeah, so I'm Tony DeNaro. I am the Public Records Officer, and I just came to talk to you all a little bit today about our public records budget. Our target budget for 2026 is $418,000, which left us a little bit short of our ability to fully fund all of our positions. As Jeff was saying, we're a very small department. We're very lean on our M&O. We only have about $5,000 that are non-personnel related expenses. And the majority of that is needed to renew software licenses that are required for being able to do the work that we do, and to keep our CLEs up to date. So we have already last year cut out all discretionary training, any training that costs money that is not required to keep our certifications. And we cut out all travel, so we only do the virtual conferences now. We canceled our office cell phone and we reduced our printing and paper usage to an absolute minimum. So those are the steps we took last year to get our budget to where it was. And then because of planned increases in salary and benefits, we're not able to meet our target budget unless we were to cut one of our positions down to 80% of a full-time equivalent. Next slide, please. So that leaves us about $14,500 short, and that is what we are hopefully asking to be supplemented in order to keep all of our staff full-time. Next slide, please. So of course, there are statutory obligations when it comes to public records. There are statutory obligations around disclosure, as well as public records retention and disposition. So my office works hand in glove with all the county departments to make sure that we are hitting our statutory obligations to minimize liability to the county. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to do was show you a little bit about the trends in public records requests over the years, since we have been measuring this data. Next slide, please. So obviously you can see that we are increasing in volume. We've had a 218% increase in the number of PRRs that we receive since 2018, which was the first year that we were required to collect this data. We're right about even in 23 and 24. So it has gone up a lot, but it seems to be sort of plateauing. And if you look at the numbers for this year, I pulled them this morning, we've had 4,749, which if you do the math, puts us on track to be at about 7,500 requests by the end of the year, which will be about 300 requests more than we got last year. So we're still going up slowly but surely. Next slide, please. So I really wanted to try and find a way to quantify the increasing complexity of requests. It's really hard to explain that a lot of our requests are becoming a lot more detailed, and we have a lot more records and electronic records, and fulfilling our obligations under the Public Records Act is becoming harder every year. So I found a metric that we report on that I think encapsulates this well, which is the number of requests that were received during the reporting period that were also closed during the reporting period. So if you look in 2018, we were closing almost a little over 90% of the requests we got within that same reporting period. Now it has fallen to below 60%. And the reason for that is that it used to be very common that we would get requests for a single document. And while we still get those requests, we get a lot more requests that have 20 to 40 bullet points under them that we treat as one request, but in essence is really multiple requests because they're all united by a topic, but they're requesting different kinds of records from different departments. Next slide, please. So one of the things that I hope to do to offset some of this money that we're asking for to be fully funded is to update our public records fee schedule. So we currently use the default fee schedule, which is set forth in the Public Records Act. Agencies are allowed to use a custom fee schedule if we were to perform a cost study and then have a public meeting and pass a resolution to adopt a new fee schedule. So I'm recommending that we do that. Currently, we don't bring in a lot of money in public records fees. It averages around $2,000 a year that we bring in, because we're currently using the default fee schedule, which allows us to charge 15 cents per page for physical copies and 5 cents for every 4 electronic files if we're doing electronic copies. I think that we could increase that. Our actual costs are probably higher than that, but we would have to do a cost study to know what the exact actual costs are. There wouldn't be any expenditure associated with that. We can do it in-house. I put together a proposal to do a cost study that would require some help from the budget office and the purchasing office. But I believe if we get all of those numbers, we can perform that study in-house and we would be able to hopefully recoup more of our actual fees. Even in the past, we haven't done it because it's not a huge amount of money. Even if we were to double the amount of fees we're bringing in, it's not a lot of money. But in the budget situation that we're in, I understand that every dollar is necessary to balance our budget. And so this is what we're proposing to hopefully bring in more revenue where we can.
Tony, what are the, outside of the two that you just cited for what we can charge for, are there other elements we can charge for in, under public records requests? Is it all really just the paper printing and sending an electronic file? It's not any of the actual work to recover the, or to identify the public records or anything?
Yeah, the only area that you can charge for staff time that is spent reviewing and redacting records is in body camera fees, which is part of our proposal for our cost study. Is to also pass body camera fees that the sheriff's office has already done a wage analysis on, and they've already done a stopwatch trial on how long it takes to redact certain types of video. So as part of this cost study, we also want to upgrade our body camera fees. Right now, we don't charge anything for body camera. It is a little different with body camera because you're not allowed to charge the requester if they are involved in the incident. So a lot of the times we probably won't be leveraging those fees. But there are requesters, this has become popular in the last few years, who request large swaths of body camera footage that they're not involved in. I believe for the purpose of distributing on YouTube and other platforms where they can put public records legally and generate clicks. And we would be able to charge those types of requesters because they're third parties who are not involved.
Yes, Tony, is this kind of a 80-20 kind of rule, you know, where 80% of your requests are coming from the same 20 people or 20% of people? I mean, you're showing the trend of it going up. Is it a lot of the same frequent flyers that are making those requests over and over, or is it a pretty good spread across?
It's a pretty good spread. Sometimes it is on a department specific level. A department will go through a controversy where they find themselves subject to a lot of public records requests from a small group of individuals or in a single individual. But for the most part, actually, it is related to the core functions that the county does. I think the public records process is sort of like a hidden component of a lot of what we do at the county. So you know, when people need to build or do a real estate transaction or remodel, they have to make a public records request. You know, after the Gray Fire, we had a ton of public records requests because people wanted to rebuild properties that had burnt down. So they had to see what had been permitted there in the past. They had to get all of those records so that they could move forward with what they're trying to do. Another thing that is a big part of our requesters are just insurance companies who are just trying to get documents so they can process insurance claims for our constituents who live in Spokane County and they can get paid back for damages that they've incurred. And I think that's sort of an underrepresented part of the Public Records Act is we spend a lot of time talking about the types of requesters that Commissioner Kearns is referring to, but most of our requesters are actually just people who are interacting with the county for some reason outside of the Public Records Act, and they just happen to need a record.
You never hear that angle of it.
Yeah.
So the body camera piece, so the legislature allowed for fee recovery for that. That does sound like something that we should probably pursue, because it takes a lot of time. And if it's really not involving the person in the video, then you're saying that we can recover some of the costs of that. What would be the average, do you offhand, like, what is that?
I reviewed the
Like-
city of Spokane's cost study, and I believe it's about 72 cents a minute for redaction they charge for, but it's broken down by the type of redaction. So if it's audio only or if it's
Oh.
video and audio. But it takes quite a lot of time to redact video, as you said,
Yeah,
and those fees can add up.
it's, yeah, in terms of the other fees, though, it doesn't really seem like you were saying, like, mostly it's just the paper and the
And it's a lot of
digital
Yeah,
files.
and our printing costs are primarily for requesters we have who are incarcerated, who have to get the records on paper. And so it's not a large pool of requesters. But sometimes we do get people who would prefer to have the records printed or who get such voluminous electronic records that our fees will kick in.
Sorry, one last question. Can you remind me how many staff total in your department?
4 with me, So me and then 3 public records specialists. One of those public records specialists is entirely dedicated to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office receives about 70% of our public records requests countywide. They also have their own public disclosure staff. But we have one person in my office fully dedicated to doing police reports, basically the documents. And then we have 2 public records specialists who split the rest of the county, who are assigned to one department, and specialize in certain areas, basically. So a lot of our records are related either to land use or building or planning or that area. One of our public records specialists is an expert in that area, and then the other is an expert in criminal justice and those type of records.
And I think it's important to note that while departments, a couple of them have a resource fairly dedicated, like prosecutor's office. There's only, I think, 2 offices that really have dedicated other than sheriff. Tony and team are supporting the rest of the county. For example, each of my departments, whether it's risk or HR, has an admin staff that helps answer those if they're HR related or risk related. But we all heavily rely on Tony and his very small team to step in, especially if we have someone going on medical leave, if there's turnover, if there's anything like that. Tony and team are the ones that are picking up in the middle of those responses if someone goes out, on the front end if they're too busy, and also helping with questions and training every time we're bringing someone in. So I really want to express the criticality of his department. It might sound like we have people in the field, but I think it's really important to recognize that his department is the backbone of even the people in the field that are trying to respond to these. So as we continue to see his team get smaller, it will have a greater impact on the rest of our county, appropriately answering, redacting, consistency, all of those things will be impacted based on the headcount in Tony's department.
Would just like to emphasize that it's a really important part of the county. This is a statutory requirement, so we're mandated to do this. Open and transparent government's very important, and if we don't comply with that, then we have fines and penalties, and so it's a high liability area.
Agreed. I think we do have to look at the whatever we're allowed to recover costs though. Because I mean, again, as an employee and we see it, we want to make sure that people are seeking information they need and they want, and we want to be transparent about it. But there's also people out there that like to just do public records requests, and it's which makes it harder for everyone. So so I don't have a problem with fee schedule and getting that updated again prior to the budget, so we know what the budget will be.
Tony, there's specific statutory requirements that sets forth our duties to respond and our timelines for responding. If I recall correctly, there's no specific hard time that we have to provide the data by. It needs to be reasonable. I believe your team always does a good job of hitting the 5-day acknowledgement, received it, and here's kind of an estimate of what it might take for us to do this. If there is not additional funding and it has to, an FTE has to be reduced down to 80%, what are the impacts on the services that you're providing for public records? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, it would be a 20% reduction in work hours for that person, so we can anticipate that their production timelines would get further out, would take longer. Like you said, the only statutory deadline that's in the Public Records Act is the initial response, which is 5 days. But after a certain point, if the records have not been produced, the requester could try to bring a cause where they say that there hasn't been a timely response or that their request has languished so long that it has not been fulfilled, even though it hasn't yet been closed. And we do see cases like that sometimes, and that is always the liability of if you are too far out on your estimated timelines, are they reasonable? And the courts have sort of addressed this by saying that the Public Records Act is a core function of every government agency. It shouldn't be thought of as a nice to have or like a supplement to the work of the agency. Access to public records is actually one of the core duties of each agency, just along with policing and everything, road construction, everything that the that the agency does. So the courts have often cited that and said, well, if you're not staffed well enough to perform this, it's a core duty of your agency, then that is a problem. And we actually see there is currently a rulemaking request in front of the Attorney General's office that was brought forth by the media and some requester organizations where they are asking the Attorney General to update the model rules, which are not in statute but are in WAC, and they are a guideline for how agencies perform their public records duties. That's a long way of saying they're trying to update it to say that if it's under a certain number of pages or documents, that it must be produced within the 5 days. And that I don't know that will become a rule, that will become part of the model rules, but our prosecutor's office did send the Attorney General's office solicited responses to this rulemaking, and we did send a response as to how that would be very difficult for us to fulfill. And if it does move in that direction, then it'll be even harder for us to fulfill with 0.8 of an FTE.
I think some of the ways that you help assisting with a reasonable timeline is if there are certain amounts of data that can't be provided, you do it incrementally, right? So it shows progress being made. It's not hey, it's going to take 6 months, and on 6 months, there's your entire request. They might get some stuff up to that point.
Yeah, we always try to make installments when records have been reviewed and we're confident that they are not exempt and that they can be released, even if there are more records to review.
Any other questions, Amber? We're down to the two of us.
I know, where did everybody go?
Public records tends to do that to people.
Such an exciting topic. I mean, what do you realistically think if you did the cost study and we were able to put some sort of appropriate fee schedule into place, including the video redaction? Is that going to close the gap or not?
I don't believe it
Do you have
would.
any sense of if you use the city of Spokane's per minute cost, do you have any sense if that would get close?
Well, that money would have come into the sheriff's office most likely,
Oh,
so
okay.
it wouldn't close this gap specifically, but we do bring in the money that comes through the GovQA portal and through our checks and money orders for printing, basically. And I do believe that we could increase that number. I don't know if it would fully close the gap.
Right.
And the other thing to consider is it may not be the fact that we're bringing in that money, but requesters may decide to no longer pursue their request, even if they have to pay a small amount, even if it's $10 to get all of the documents in an installment, then they may decide not to pursue further.
It might actually
installments.
discourage kind of large requests. Yeah. Do we have examples of other employees at the county that are at 80% FTE?
There's not many right now. So most of our employees are either on a 40 or 37.5 work week. We're actually split about 50-50 now at this point. And so as far as percentage less than that, it's a smaller handful, and most of them is spent more because the employee need, not the business need. And so it's been kind of an accommodation of sort to allow for flexibility for those that need it. But it's not a work model that we're typically seeing in our departments. I know with reduced budgets this year, we've had more people consider it. But the same concern throughout the departments as we do this, it means that they're trying to figure out where the work goes, or if it's going to slow significantly, that there's risk, which is why Tony's here today, is to talk about the risk side of it. So it's something people are considering, but not something we've traditionally seen.
All right, I think that's all my questions.
From a budget standpoint, we will compile all these. And so when we get to the point, there may be some money to do some things. Hopefully at that point, I've heard all the different groups and start being able to rank your priorities on what can fit in. We'll just keep that an ongoing list. I might send it around periodically, so there's not a late mover advantage, the last person in the room being top of mind. and keep that going, but that was our expected way to do this, because you guys have a different way for us.
You're saying kind of a running total,
Yeah.
department by department
Just
of
kind
where
of-
the gaps are.
Exactly. And the dollar amount that goes with it, and your 3-sentence synopsis to bring it back to front of mind when it's 2 weeks down the road and we're have new stuff in our brains.
I think, again, on the cost recovery, we just need to look at those again ahead of the budget, so we know what effect that could have if we approve that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would come back with, there would have to be a public hearing first, and then I believe the next session, there would have to be a resolution. So yeah, we'll definitely put all that information together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jason go over the sales tax. We call it our monthly update, however, I think it's like the third this year we've done it. One we just sent around and one we kind of skipped. Over time, this is actually good news. I'll just but a little bit of good news with this, so we don't get to say that often. Yes.
I know. So I wanted to say it, but then.
All right, so like Jeff was saying, good news for sales tax this month. So July collections based on May activity. You can see, July, we brought in about 7.3 million. Year to date, about 44.7 million, which is 1.6% over our forecast. So still pretty close. Year over year for the same period, we're 1.4 million over where we were the last year. But if you see on the graph, maybe a little bit higher, Ross, sorry. We've been trending pretty close to what we've been forecasting for the month, with the exception of last month, which was a happy surprise, right? That's the direction we want to go. But if we're off target, that's the one. And as we go through like the subsectors, we think we have an understanding what caused the big spike. So.
The age of America, that's what.
All right. Sorry. A little differently, but yeah. So for our rolling 12-month, right? Scroll to the bottom, let's just skip like. All right, so 2 years ago, we were at about 5.9% growth for our rolling 12-month average. Last year at the same time, we were in a rougher spot, it was 1%, and now we're back up to 2.3%. And a big part of that is the past 2 months have had pretty strong revenue growth, revenue collection growth, so that's helped us a bunch. Next slide, please. For the subsectors, for retail sales collection, you see the combination of food services. So year over year is up 6.1%. It's pretty much on trend for what we forecasted. So yeah, the black line is what we've the collections, right? So scroll down. For construction, we're up 7.1% for that subsector, and for retail trade, we're only up 2.1%, but it is our largest grouping. So even a small 2.1% growth has a large dollar associated with that. Next slide. So for the subsectors, construction, again, we were up, the thing I was saying, 7.1% for the construction sectors. For the American Institute of Architects, for their architectural buildings, right? It's usually a kind of like the canary in the coal mine sort of thing. Billings have declined 30 of the last 33 months, which is not great. But that being said, Spokane seems to be pretty resilient. So non-residential building is up 15.3% year over year for actual collections, and residential building is up 8.2%. You get the lower category, the building equipment contractors, again, like plumbers, HVAC, the subsectors that go into building a lot of these commercial buildings on the inside is up 18.7%. So really strong construction activity year to date. Next slide. So for restaurants, Full service restaurants, again, a little bit better than last year, 4.4% year over year. Limited service restaurants, not as strong, but still just a hair up over last year to date at 0.5%. The drinking places down a little bit, upward in the 3%, and the hotels and motels up 7%. So all in all, still pretty strong. Next page. So for this one, you'll see like the new car dealers. So for retail trade, new car dealers is a huge portion of this. There's a large spike in May over prior years. So for the year to date, for the entire new car dealers are up 7%. But last month, just for the month, year over year, it was 45% growth. So we're figuring it's probably the impact that we expected for new car sales because of the tariffs, all that volatility. We expected to see it earlier, but as we looked into it more and started analyzing it, we figured, or reasoned, I should say, that a lot of the new car sales, people sign the agreements, but the actual new car dealerships may not see the impact of that for a couple months as they get the dollars from the financing groups, right? Because a lot of them are not cash deals. So if it was cash deal, we'd see the impact more quickly.
Right.
But if it was financing, it might take we're under the assumption, a little bit of a lag for their collections and then when they report that. Yes.
Can I ask just a clarify? So it's new car dealers. Are those the sale of only the new cars, or are those dealers that have a franchise with, you know, with a make of cars? So like if they bring in a car on a trade-in, sell a new car, but then they sell that car that they brought in on a trade-in, does that go into the new car dealers category, or does that break down to the used cars?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I should explain that. Long
You're
time
the
ago.
guy.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Yeah, new car dealers is because it's based on NAICS code. So a specific business has a NAICS code assigned to it, and when they report on that.
So set up with a one code, so it's kind of a one-to-one married up.
So it would encompass the new car sales and used car sales if that business is considered a new car dealer.
Gotcha. Okay.
So-
So your, you know, your Ford, your Subaru, your Toyota, your Porsche, you know, those dealers, those are all, regardless of what the car is, if they're selling it, it goes in that new car dealers category.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, was that really getting question? So, no, so new car dealers up 7%, used cars, dealers down almost the same percentage. Other motor vehicle dealers, RVs, boats, things like that, down about 3%. And the auto repair and maintenance, just relatively flat, up like 1.8%. Just to summarize, so year to date, we're about 700,000 over what we budgeted for this point in the year. So about 1.6% over what was budgeted. 3.3% or about 1.4 million over our actual collections for the same point last year and year to date. So our historical average is 3.9% going back to 2020. And currently our 12-month rolling average, again, just to recap, is sitting at that 2.3%. On the very bottom, the recent news, as you can see, like with our rolling average starting to stabilize a little bit. The New York Fed, they have their what's the word, sorry, the quarterly report on household debt and credit, right? So for their activity, they look at people's delinquency rates, their credit card balances, right? For the state of the economy. The transition into early delinquencies is leveled off. So people aren't moving into early delinquency as much, with the exception of student loans, because they reenacted the student loan payments and then the reporting associated with that. Same thing with the transition into serious delinquency. That's leveled off. There's a slight uptick, they said, with mortgages, but really not much. Everything seems to stabilize a little bit. Any questions?
So that 2.3 is annualized. It's about 1.8 million. If we were to stay at that for the rest of the year as an average, which is pretty much gonna make up for the 2 million in the 25 budget that was closed through fund balance.
It's a sunk cost, Jeff. It's gone. We're not.
This- It's just we're not, when we say a flat budget, it's a flat budget that needs 2 million to get there. But on the positive side, if the next numbers come in kind of equal, keeping this thought process the same, we should at least get the preview of those numbers before the Tuesday after Labor Day, when we're rolling out the full budget package for you guys. We are at least talking about the idea, my qualifiers out here, of possibly changing our recommendation to you for next year from a 0% increase to
On
maybe
sales tax.
on sales tax, just the sales tax portion, to maybe a 1, probably 1.5 at the most. Just if this trends and it appears that's what we're gonna be looking at next year, we should bring that forward for the board to discuss. So it could be some positive news in that regard. Just to put that in dollar amounts, a 1% increase would be 800,000. So 1.5, 1.2 million, split to 80 million. So it could be about an extra $1 million to help with your budget decisions next year, if the numbers stay solid enough that we're comfortable with our recommendation.
You're at least bringing good news too.
I know. Felt a lot better about it this morning.
Okay,
So we want to go to the next
Yes.
weekend? Or who's doing this?
Just something that.
Jeff,
where
you were so-
feel how-
I didn't
About
know I did
this.
that. Here we go. Things we should have discussed 10 minutes ago. So can you bring up the next one, Ron? The 7-month financial report. So this is, if you look at the very top corner, I can't see from here, but on the paper in front of me, you'll see at 7 months, if you're right on budget, you would have spent 58.3% of your budget year to date. So that would be through the end of July. And then you can look down agency by agency, you'll see the vast majority are where you would hope they are. I'll call out non-departmental, about 1/3 the way up from the bottom. The reason it is so underspent is also the reason at the bottom, the budgets don't match. You'll recall at the end of last year in December, we did a lot of ARP general fund movement to the tune of about $45 million. So we have now done the accounting to catch up with all of that. So thank you, Chair CUNY, for pointing this out. It was actually there. The row was hidden in the file.
Sorry about that. That was my fault.
Okay.
But thank you for finding out for us. So we have the answer today. So that 45 million you see in non-departmental, 95+% of that is ARP related. And that is why at the bottom, our budget this year, you'll recall, is 264 million, if I'm rounding up. But the difference between the 308 and that 264 is the ARP. So that's one that's an outlier. Are there any others you guys have questions about? We'll see if we can. The economic development's very right. But that's just a matter of when payments are going out. Like I know we just processed a big one for GSI that wouldn't have hit yet. So that's just a timing issue. I think those are the two biggest outliers.
Since the last time we saw these, was there anybody that was really high last time that came into, I don't remember which ones kind of stood out last presentation. Were there any major shifts, any major movements in these budgets?
Yes, most of it is related though to the contracts being settled and getting all the retro pays in place.
Okay.
So I would say this we are now current on that large contract and the retro being applied. So the other one, which would have showed more underspends, are more caught up year to date.
And just a quick glance, I mean, these all look good. They all look very
Kind of where
much
we'd want them to be.
range. Yeah.
And like the auditor elections, it's always gonna be down because they're gonna have more costs coming in August and November. So, so there's just, some of it's just timing.
At the bottom, we just kind of looped it by category instead of by department, just for another way to look at things. Again, the main outlier there is the economic development we've already talked about.
This is for 6 months, seven.
Seven, this is through July, so 58.3 would be the 7 divided by 12 in the percentage form.
Does this number reflect when the sheriff was in here, they talked about the 10 deputies from the valley and the funding that came with that? That
We'll
all,
be seeing a bit more on another one coming up.
okay, cause I see sheriff is exactly.
The sheriff is exact.
The 58.3, and does that? So, I mean, when they told us when they were in here, they were saying they were
We
gonna
showed a
be
1.1. We didn't pull those numbers, but my assumption would be. I suspect possibly they had not accounted for the cars and the computer order. That would be a chunk of it. Is there anything else you can think of right off that might explain the difference? Did they have much by way of retro? There.
They, no, would not have.
So then the next sheet would be the 7-month financial report, same title as this one. Again, you'll see the services category is quite large here. And that is where the bulk of the ARP 45 million we talked about ended up, because most of that money went to services, either external in the community or internal.
And we see government transfers as an expense line is 74% for the year. That's just the timing of transfers. We usually can make them early in the year or late in the year, not really ratably throughout the year.
Hearing no questions, we can move on to the next one, unspent salary and benefit recovery. So this one, everything above the line that you're seeing right now would be your general fund. Below the line are other agencies outside the general fund. The only
Elected.
elected officials. Oh, I'm sorry.
Still general.
Still general.
All general fund, just independently elected. It's not a lot.
Thank you. Above the line, you'll see the detention is a huge, that's just about they'd love to hire more people. It's trying to find them and get them in. So there's obviously a huge underspend there. It's not by choice. It's just the reality of what's going on. But by and large, you take out detention services, you have some bigger numbers, but they're in the huge departments. So percentage wise, but this would be where we've talked about doing the recapture. Just salary and benefit. We're looking at about a 3.5 million year to date right now. You will notice on the bottom, the sheriff is 383 to the good in salaries. So there's some underspend somewhere else that gets them to that dead even 58.3 on the overall budget. And some of that could also just be journal entries of Although they have done the journals for the cards. I don't know if
They did the budget amendments, yeah.
computers too. So that. Any questions or things that stick out here? So overall, things are where we expect them to be, which is actually good news. The things that are sticking out, there's probably an issue of some sort. The last piece we're looking to go over is the FTEs. Credentials of these.
No, but Ron, do you send this to Ron? Yes, okay.
So we started the year, you'll recall, at 2,115 authorized FTEs. As of last week, we're at 2,035. So that's 80 exactly to date that have been reduced. About 20 of them are general fund revenue backed in a way that you would actually see a savings going into the next year budget cycle. Not all of them are at 100% because sometimes the decision was made, you know, I'm being let go, but because of that, you're going to take Tesla from a 37.5 to a 40 to make up for a little bit. Or, you know, you make somebody else a lead because they're taking on a little bit of extra work. So it's kind of difficult to say exactly how much of each person is a true savings going forward. On average, a fully loaded FTE with benefits and a total cost is going to be between 110 and 120,000 a year. And we definitely have people at the high end and the low end and everywhere in between with the attritions. So we're figuring out about 100,000 cost savings a person. It's about a $2 million budgetary savings going forward. The other 80 people, a lot of them were initial cleanups of just long time vacancies that have been left on the books that we got cleaned up. That was kind of the first probably 30 that went out. And then we also had another almost 30 when we did that 6-month cleanup, when we looked through things that have been vacant longer than 6 months, went back and forth with some of the agencies. They would make a case why they're going to be filling it right away. And, you know, so they didn't all come out that you guys looked at. We went back and forth and tried to make logical decisions working with the groups. But those were the two big chunks, getting you to about 60 FTEs, and then the other 20 would be attritions that have not been backfilled, like, you know, the purchasing director, a person in grants, you know, Mike Sparber's admin, just some different decisions that have been made in ways to get to budgets. As budgets are all in now, and we're looking through them, we think we'll do another round where positions that were not budgeted for or requested for 26, we would take those out. And we are telling people, you know, if they're not budgeted, they need to come out. We only want budgeted positions in Workday. There's not exception for the sheriff for their civil service thing. But if money comes back and they make the case, they can be added back in. Like, they're not gone forever. We're just trying to make things match. So that's where our FTEs are as of today. Any questions on that?
Could you read through those again? I was pulling up our historical FTE. Can you read those again? So, and these are general fund and other funds as well? So can you, one more time?
So we started at 2115. That's authorized.
Yep.
And we're today authorized is 2,035.
2,035. Okay.
Filled is in the 1900s right now. Have, of course, positions posted.
So I'm sorry, filled is how many you said?
The 1900s.
Yeah, it was very close to that the other day.
Okay, so 1900, I mean, because we've been in the 19. Okay, yeah, so in 2024, at least the sheet I have, this is from, I don't see a date when this was. Okay, we were 1901 in 2024. So
we're the next time we're before you on the second, we'll bring a 5-year look back. Right now, it's current through May, because we just took another group out. We didn't get time to get it updated. We did it today. So we want to have that updated. So on the 2nd, in just 2 weeks now, wow. So in 2 weeks, that will be part of it. I'm just thinking about what all we have to get done in the next 2 weeks. Better. So we will have that for you. And I believe we're just looking at it, we are at 22 levels right now. Is it 21? We're between
Yeah.
21 and 22.
22.
Yeah, so
What's
we're-
that?
as far as our current FTE count, we are lower than the last 2 years, lower than we were in 24 and 23. I think we're back in the 21, 22.
Yeah, our low, at least the form I'm looking at, the lowest filled positions we've had since 2019. The lowest filled was 2021 at 1,774.5. But that also, that had,
COVID, we dropped the
yeah,
lowest.
but that year had 243 vacancies. And then, yeah, the largest number of vacancies we had was 22. In 2022, we had 285 vacancies, but filled went up to 1789. So we must have added a bunch in 22.
What we have found looking historically, sheriff had a
Sheriff.
bunch of sheriff deputies added, positions added.
Okay, that
They
was
were
22.
filled until probably this year or the last 6 to 12 months, but they were added in that time frame.
Yeah.
And as we've went back through, we have found a lot of times when, I changed from one position to another, my old position didn't get scrubbed out. And so we're doing a lot of that cleanup. So I would say those numbers were the reason the unfilled were so high. A big chunk of them, if we had taken the time at that point, would have been.
Yeah.
The largest increase, and the other large increase was in public works. Brought the business inside around the transfer stations. So that was a business case decision made by the board. I think it made sense why you guys did it, but that did jump up by 35 to 40 FTEs that were not county workers, and now they are.
And that wouldn't have hit until this year, right? That'd be out.
Late last year.
Was it November? Okay.
So that and the sheriff ad would be your 2 double-digit ads.
Okay. Yeah, and the one I'm looking at, I see in the corner, this is as of, looks like April of this year is this one that I have. So, okay. Okay, so that would be in here. Okay.
I can send that to them so they can update it.
Well, I'm sure they have it. I'm sure they're the ones I got it from.
It'll be pretty and updated for you on the 2nd.
Yeah.
And then just,
Is it by department?
pretty,
The one I have is, yeah.
by pretty, I mean, hopefully very easy to read and understand.
It is kind of complex, like the filled versus unfilled, and so.
We're trying to get it down where it's just gonna be.
Yes.
It's just gonna be FTEs. We'll have our 10 sheriff, but outside of those 10 civil service. If it's an FTE and unfilled, there's also a budget behind it, though. The plan is to refill it. The other, I'll say good news, additional good news. We've talked about the sales tax being up and some possible additional revenue there. With the Valley passing their public safety 1/10. That will be just shy of 400,000, the way we're calculating it, that would come to the county. We call it 85-15% split. The city does it. The auditor has also reminded us, brought back in front of mind, the new motor vehicle license fee that the state raised, so nothing that you guys did, but it's a significant fee increase. And it's gonna bring in about $1 million a year to the county. One thing that we've been thinking about presenting to you guys as an option of using that as a possible debt service payment as we look at the bonding. Look at that as well as read and maybe the pros and cons of either one there. So that's another 1.4 million. On top of the 1.8-ish coming in from sales tax. And then if you add in You guys have cut about $1 million from outside agencies. It might go up beyond there, but I think you've locked in about $1 million. So you are looking at about $3.5 million there. Above and beyond a flat budget. You could look at it as the 20 million down to 16.5. I kind of hate some, like, we do have a budget deficit and that we're spending, we're on track to spend more than we make, but we don't have a deficit in the sense we can actually afford everything we're doing. We are slowing down our spending so we don't end up in a serious deficit in the next year or so. So you can look at things different ways. Everything's about numbers, spend them 43 different ways. But we are in a better place than we thought we might be a few months ago. That, like the presentation you just saw in public records, when you get done eating about 30 of those presentations and your head's hurt, there will be possibly some funding to come back. We're collectively about 13 of the 39 budgets came in over budget. We'll remind you some of that was actually done in good faith. It was the new system, clicking buttons incorrectly. So we're working with them. That's why we didn't bring you a list today of all the different budgets, because we don't want to give somebody kind of a naughty mark, so to speak, when they actually thought they were submitting a balanced budget, is missed a couple of buttons in the clicking. So we'll have that for you the next time we're here. Collectively, they're over by about $5 million. But then there are also a couple groups that I would say chose to cut their budget in a way the good GFOA Bible would dictate as the crisis card, kind of framing it: if you do this, you know, the world will stop spinning and fall out of the universe. As I say it here, the budget requester claims catastrophic outcomes for the public if the request is not fulfilled. It's a no, go, no. You either do it or you don't do it. We're going to bring forward over the course of time, there's probably some areas in the middle. You guys are already good at finding those, where hopefully we can keep it where it's not a crisis, but we also come in on budget. And that will be part of your discussions over the next month that you're probably going to hate by the time we get to the end of it. But it will be good. It'll be good to go through it all, have the conversations, so that you guys can make your final decision.
Just second, Commissioner French, you're in.
Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna, no, I'm just kidding. So last month I was down in Clark County, and Scott and I had a chance to talk about this. They've gone to a 4-day week, and in talking to one of the commissioners, they were able to achieve a pretty good savings as a result of that. The only thing that did not go to the 4-day was the court, and obviously detention, public safety, but the rest of the operation went to 4 days. So I posed the question to Scott as to, you know, have we ever looked at going to 4 days? And if so, is there any value to it or not? I mean, that just, there's some customer service adjustments you gotta make and stuff, but if the economies aren't there, then, you know, it's not worth considering and stuff. So I just kind of a throw out for discussion is all it is.
And I think Highland County was the first one to do that.
Did they?
Yeah, over a year ago. And I talking to one of the commissioners, it hasn't gone great. So I don't know what Clark County, you know, but it's people still expect service.
Yeah. Well, I was talking Clark County, Nevada.
Oh.
Yeah, I was in North Nevada, not Clark County, Washington.
Okay, sorry.
No, Clark County,
Highland
Nevada.
County, Washington did, and it has, my initial hearing from the commissioners is it's not been great.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's a small county that I think is
Yeah.
just.
Did they say what wasn't
Yeah,
great?
I think partly, you know, just the service expectations from the citizens, you know. Island County, or maybe it's San Juan, you know, it's the island, but anyway, you know, it's just, you've got summer homes and all of that, so it's just, it's a different environment where it's not a, you know, citizens aren't there the whole time, and so then when they come, they're expecting service, and especially like in planning and permitting and all of that, that makes it harder for to continue moving on buildings and all of that. So it was just anecdotally and in a conversation. So I don't know financially, but and I see Ashley shaking her head, so I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah, I've also heard they weren't able to shut as many departments down as they expected, because you still have to have support behind the scenes, right? So their full teams weren't necessarily off on Fridays, because there still was risk incidents that were occurring, there were still HR incidents that were occurring, there's still building and planning things that would come up, so. IT, yes, I heard that as a face value, it sounded great, but they weren't able to realize as much of the savings as I think they had hoped for.
Yeah. Oh, just, okay, just like Commissioner Kearns.
You went through some of the potential revenue increases, the valleys, one of the other fees. I think it's October, the state is gonna start charging the sales tax on services. Any estimates out there on what that could bring in?
No,
No.
unfortunately, there hasn't been any good data that we can. Rely on to see what sort of, if we have a list of businesses now, or the types of businesses like, Tess and I were talking about this morning, they're live presentations, but we don't, so if they're a motivational speaker, then you're gonna get taxed on that, but we don't have the data to quantify.
And I know I had looked at the Department of Revenue's site. I mean, at everything, it's just like still working on it, open for public comment, goes into effect October 1st. And so, I mean, yeah, I just wasn't sure if maybe there was something you guys had heard.
It's also gonna cost us. You know, like security is one of private security firms are one of the things. So all of our scanners, we're gonna have to pay, it's gonna be a 9% upcharge on our security contracts. Because that is something, last I've seen, that has been deemed something that's taxed. Pretty much any consultant we ever hire, a lot of consultants come under that, the county, you know, different departments only bring them in. So, yeah, temporary, like the fair spends about $100,000 in that 2 weeks on temporary staff. Makes a lot of sense to run an operation that big. But that's gonna be another $9,000-10,000 in taxes. So I'm sure it will bring in more. It's definitely gonna cost more, but I think the question will be, what is the net one way or the other?
Okay.
Means more money to the state, less money.
Yeah, correct, you're right.
Yeah, Scott.
They wouldn't have done it if it didn't.
I don't want to rain on Jeff's good news parade. There is a lot of opportunity upside here.
We hear the dark clouds coming.
And Ashley presents her HR budget. She's also going to be sharing benefit history and kind of go forward projections. And we are having very high utilization of our plan accounts. And so it's having impact on our self-insurance for medical. And you'll see it when she shares the data. She's got a lot of really great information to share. I think starting in like 23, 24, we started seeing some increases. Not yet like super concerning, but it's continuing 25. And it is having some impact. So there's going to have to be we'll have to have a conversation around what does a funding need to look like to our benefits, our self-insurance plan, which can affect the general fund, which will be higher than what we've been doing in the past. Our 5% that we've taken the last couple of years is not going to be sustainable. So as you think about the opportunities, there's also some other risks that we're looking at that haven't been completely baked into our budget projections. I think included 5% for health insurance, and likely we will not be able to stay at 5%. 8?
Or 2026 is what's forecasted, 8%.
Yeah, I was just talking, but in our projections, I think we only did.
Yeah, it started with a 5
Yeah, we
and
did the
then
3% swap.
hers
Swapped, yep.
decreased quite a bit, so we were able to offset.
So more to come on that. I just wanted to throw some cautionary.
Josh, Commissioner Burgers talked about, looking at what the state's plan, is. And then
I was just gonna say.
in Wasac now is, I think, looking at, what they can do as well, that, and some countywide plans, so.
Yep.
So I think it's gonna be time for us to really take a hard look and see what the numbers are, from that, because again, it's. As you say, when you're self-insured, when there's big expenses. It's a hit and. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's it for us today. We didn't get as far through the budget as we thought we might before today. So we're gonna hold off on that one until the next time. Unless you guys have questions.
I was just, so you said that some departments, when they were submitting their budgets, didn't like. Forgot to click through. to
Everything
add
for
everything.
every line, like after salary, you have to hit submit, after benefit, you have to
Okay.
hit submit, after travel, and sometimes they didn't hit the submit, so it didn't tally at the bottom. You have a long enough list, you might not catch it with mental math that you're off. They thought they submitted on budget, but one of the submits didn't go through.
So now they're having to rework and get back to you.
Correct, so when we see that, we're letting them know, of course, that's a rainy day for them. Thinking they finally got there, but there's a little bit more work to be done to actually get there, but I don't want to give them a tarnish. For not doing their homework well, because they actually thought they did. It's a new system and there's a learning curve with it. Overall, you know, Tessa and Jason were singing a happy dance last week. Some of the ways we found how the system can automatically move the budgets around. It's gonna save a ton of time.
It's gonna save us about a week's worth of work in December, pushing the budget from adaptive into Workday. It's a couple clicks and a few minutes.
Thank you, appreciate it. We've got other things we need to get moving on.
Can I ask, and I don't know if it would be budget, if it would be HR, I mean, can someone compile some information around PEB for us? And just how the process works, from what I understand, it's kind of an application to PEB, they review. You know, on what does they want to take you on, is my understanding, I mean, I don't know if there's some historical numbers there we could look at.
Yeah, and
So-
the last time we looked at this, it actually was more expensive than our current plan, so it was not a cost savings to the county, and that was before I got here. So just for awareness, this is something actually had slated for us to be working on in 2027, which I know is a couple years out, but we are in the middle of launching Workday HR payroll right now, and I don't think I have the capacity to pick up a full RFP right now to go through this process, so I can definitely bring information, but this is something we had slated in the next couple of years to be looking at, whether it was Primera, Kaiser, PEB, another option. It also requires negotiation with our bargaining units, so we've pulled a lot of information out of our contracts. We used to have the full plans in them, including the designs. We were been able to pull that out. But there is still language in our contracts that requires HMO and PPO, as well as a certain stop loss. So I can definitely bring that, but I do want to make sure to let you guys know what our current capacity is. I have one person that's benefits on my team. That's also the one same person doing benefits for Workday right now, myself. So I can definitely compile data. I just don't know how quickly we can lift and shift. And that's why I was looking at about a year and a half from now, having that, and then we could negotiate into contracts with Rayleigh as well.
I don't know if this is accurate, I've been told, like. PEB will send an individual to come present on joining, I mean, is that something someone we could have just come present to the board, I mean, I was told that's how it works, I've never seen one of those presentations, I don't know how often they do that, but if that's something we wanna.
Right, I think
Them
eventually we definitely do.
make
I
their
mean, I think
pitch.
let's see what Wasac is doing as well.
Yeah.
They're trying to gather data right now.
Okay.
So that way it's a suite of things we're looking at, not just one option and then 6 months later, another option.
Okay.
I think that would be my suggestion, especially if we're gonna be out a little bit longer just because of Workday. And I do understand it's gonna take quite a bit of time on Workday. But I think we have to look at what our options are. So PEB being one of them, and like I said, I just got the email from Derek about a couple weeks ago, asking for us to fill out a survey to give him information as to what they can look at.
Sounds good.
Yes, and we're pulling that data right now, so I got that email last week, so we're working on pulling that data.
Okay, great. So I think it's, it's kind of looking at doing a risk pool basically for counties. Medical. Could be a good thing too.
Yeah.
And I know they're looking at what it would look like with PEB in comparison too, so.
Sounds good.
But yeah, having someone come present would be good when we figure all this out. Okay, thank you guys very much, appreciate it. We have a few miscellaneous items to get to, and then we're gonna do some executive session stuff, so. So Alan, do you wanna talk about it, since we all got an email, while we were sitting here?
Yes, so this morning, the airport board completed the interview process and has voted this morning unanimously to extend an employment contract to Dave Herring, who is the current CEO for Lincoln, Nebraska. And so he comes to us with a wealth of experience in a lot of areas where previous CEO was lacking. He's managed 1,000-acre industrial development a park next to the airport, which has rail service from both UP and BN. He's very charismatic, and he will be here tomorrow before our 2 o'clock to meet and greet each of you and stuff.
And the resolution is on our 2 o'clock.
Yes, so
Name was not in there because we couldn't put a name in until we do.
yes, the board's taken official action this morning to offer it up. He'll go to the city council this afternoon, and then they'll take an action on it tonight. And then we'll take our action tomorrow, and if that's goes well, then, you know, he will start October 6th. And the number of applicants we went through and the consultant went through was huge. I think it was in excess of 70 applicants. And then whittled it down to 5, then 3. Did the interviews a couple weeks ago for the 3, negotiated a contract, and then they approved the contract this morning. So
Very good, exciting news for our community.
it is. And well, and the other thing is that I think it's going to be a breath of fresh air from a variety of standpoints, including public outreach. He's strong on public outreach. And so with all of the conversations with regard to PFAS and things like that, there'll be a dramatic change in the community engagement side of it compared to what we had before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
getting through that process.
Lord, howdy.
I'm looking forward to meeting you. Sounds great.
Before I have you go, I'm gonna go. So I do have, and Pat helped put it together with Mark Gregory, a draft proclamation that we were trying to get to the sheriff's office, wanted to make sure that the family seen it and was aware. So we do have a proclamation. I will make sure, Shelley, did you get that? Can you print that for everyone? So if there's any comments before tomorrow at 2. So we did have it, just the title on the agenda, but we'll have a proclamation for Sergeant Salas. You guys got the information on the service time is Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And then there is a procession that is going to happen before the ceremony that they're just asking. I will put that out this afternoon. The sheriff's office sent it to me on Friday. I just want to run it by legal that if their schedules allow, they'll be going by the courthouse. It's like 11:15. So don't quote me on that. That'll come out
That's Wednesday. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
That, they're just asking people if their schedules allow to just pay their respects and line the streets. So no one's required to do it, but just have the opportunity, just like the email that I sent out last week. I think that's what I have on that. Certainly, I don't know all the details, but I just keep getting items that come forward. So I will push it out all county later on this afternoon. And then if there's any changes to the draft resolution that any of you see, just let me know. So it's still draft. It's my understanding, legal that since I only had that it was a proclamation, I didn't have the attachment. Which I have to open it up for public comment. Is that true? Because in the past, we didn't have. I mean, we didn't always have everything in the agenda packet in detail. We had it as a placeholder.
I'd be happy to answer that after.
Okay, because if that's true, then we would have to open up for public comment on the airport director as well, because we didn't have a name. So I would just check on that for me, so that way I know the right procedures tomorrow, but in the past, we haven't done that, so I'm just want to make sure that you're meeting the current law.
Honestly, allowing folks to come up and say some words after we read the proclamation might be a good touch.
Yeah, which we normally do in a proclamation anyway. It's just opening up to formal public comment, you know, which.
Oh, you mean because the wording isn't in the packet yet? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
But citizens know and knew the title, so. But I don't want to have, I mean, it's the same thing for the airport director. I mean, yes, it isn't a big deal, but I just want to make sure that that's our procedure, because it has not been our procedure. So, yes, I would hope that someone from the sheriff's office will be there to address the proclamation. I know they're all busy with everything going on right now, trying to get everything ready for the service tomorrow, but and I do believe the governor will be in town for the service, as well as they're expecting about 3,000 to 4,000 people. So, and if you are attending, make sure that the sheriff is aware, or let me and I'll make sure that they're aware, so they can save it as a seed for the commissioners.
I got an email on Friday, I assume everyone else did, from Mark Gregory
Okay.
with his and Heather Martinez email to reply to if you're
Okay.
there. So I sent him an email this morning.
Okay.
Oh, Mark Gregory.
Okay.
He sent it on Friday, Friday afternoon.
Okay. Any other miscellaneous, and then we'll go to Pat.
We all got, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we all got the email about the prosecutor, the 3 names. I forwarded that on to Scott, so we'll have to pick a date to do interviews and all that. So. Put that
Did
up.
that come in over the weekend? Or
Yes,
Yeah,
Saturday.
Saturday, yes, yes.
they voted on Saturday?
Yeah, they sent the 3 names were forwarded. I think I got an email that had it on there, so I forwarded it on to Scott, so. Yeah, it had the names, addresses, contact info for everybody, so we'll have to.
Yeah.
Do our end of that,
Probably sooner than later, just to get it on our
I
schedule.
think we have about a month. I calculate our deadline at September 16th.
September 16th. Okay.
And then I had a question about that. I know, so if we're getting emails in support of one of the candidates, or any of the candidates, do we forward those on to Gina?
Yeah.
To compile?
Yeah.
Into the packets that we're doing? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So last week, I did a brief exchange with Tom Klaus. I don't know whether the rest of you did or not. But he asked an interesting question and he's a reporter
Okay.
with the Business Journal. And he asked an interesting question, and I thought about it before, but didn't really give it a lot of energy. But the more I thought about it after the exchange with him, I thought, this could become a real problem for us because we're a bordered county, and with the Coeur d'Alene tribe now moving to take the land that they have down in Latah Creek to trust land. that then also says that they should have a seat on the health board. And that then opens it up for any other tribe that wants to buy land in Spokane County and become part of the health board. And so I was wondering, has the health board considered what that's going to do, the potential
Yeah.
of that? And
There's a potential of like, I mean, 'cause it's not just tribes that own land here, it's tribes that own land, but it's also kind of medical.
Urban, what do they got? Urban Indian Health Centers or something like that.
Yeah.
They're called.
There's several in Spokane County that are in addition to tribes. So yeah, we could have like 8
Yeah.
potential new members.
well, it's interesting because when you talk to Tony Lodge, and I don't know what the number is now, but a couple of years ago, Tony told me that the Native American Project has recorded over 1,200 different tribes represented here in Spokane County that, you know, they provide services to. And so let's just say 10% of those decide that they want to create land or whatever. You can have one huge board that I'm not a member of. Thank you.
No, you will.
Oh, you
will be feeling
You'll be one of those 8,
by
right?
the end of the year, Al. You'll be on the board.
Holy cow. So the
Which
the
that's
question is,
We got an email on Friday, the Kalispels have appointed their person. So
Oh,
they're the
good.
first,
Well, we have to confirm.
entity. Yeah,
okay.
so, but
So-
they did, so they're the only ones so far.
So the question is, are you aware of any potential litigation to provide clarity around the intent of the legislation as put forward by Mr. Riccelli? Or is there a need to readdress
he'll
this
do-
issue for clarity?
Not that I'm aware
Okay,
of. I haven't heard anyone talking about it.
do we want to request any kind of change in the legislation? Because otherwise, I mean, this board can really get out of control.
Or just leave it the way it was, but
Yeah, just saying.
keeps changing it.
Well, my comment to Mr. Klaus was, this was what happens when you create legislation without fully understanding what the problem is or the challenge or opportunity or consequences and stuff. So I just raise it for fodder for conversation. So, yeah.
Be interesting to know the people that voted for that, how many of them have ever attended a health board meeting?
Yeah, or how many of them were.
And I think we know the answer to
Yeah.
that.
I mean, there's.
We know there's 4 that are eligible now, which means 8 additional people, right? If you do the math. And then if
To
the-
add an elected to each tribal member.
And then if you.
What happens when we run out of commissioners?
City.
We go to cities.
Yeah, they go to cities, that's what,
Oh,
we still have cities. But then, yeah, if the Coeur d'Alene tribe were to have trust land, that would add another. But that's not current.
you got Coeur d'Alene, you got the Nespers, you got Lapway, I mean, you know, holy cow.
Yes, no, we understand. Okay, we're gonna
All right, never mind.
keep going on that, 'cause,
Not
yeah.
my problem, it's yours.
So it'll be yours. As we're tribes, we're elected, so the next will be a city member and then it'll be a county commissioner. So. So let's see, so before we go, Pat, I'm gonna check with you on any other miscellaneous items.
Thanks. Good morning, commissioners. We had one media request this morning about our Sobering Center project, and we'll get the information back to the reporter, so expect another story on that from a development perspective. Reporter caught it on the something to do with planning and was just interested in the details from the Journal of Business. So that story will be coming. Last week we had great coverage on the Scraps Award and gift from Ms. C. So we'll be following up on that. I do anticipate some media interest possibly tomorrow in attending the meeting for the proclamation for the sergeant. So I think that plus the memorial this week will be the main news items. But more to come. And thank you to any of the commissioners who've sent in ideas, concepts, priorities for the chair's State of the County address and presentation. That will be taking up a fair amount of preparation and planning time as we prepare for that, and the COG meeting coming in early September. I anticipate some media interest and attention on that as well. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other miscellaneous items?
Two from me.
Okay.
One is the potential letter to respond to the Spokane County Board Association resolution. I handed out a draft of that last week and emailed it around. And I was wondering if board wants to send a response or not. And if they do, there's feedback.
Okay, and which
The Bar Association.
The Spokane County Bar Association passed a resolution.
No, you said Board Association.
Bar Association.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, no, the Spokane County Bar. This is regarding the 3 additional judgeships.
I reviewed the letter. I think it's fine from my perspective.
I thought it was good.
but I will.
It was good. It was good. I thought it was very professional. It hit on what the true costs are for each additional judge too, because I believe their resolution mainly focused on just the 50% of the judge's salary, but it lays out all of the other expense. I think it was very well done. I thought it could tell a lot of information, a lot of data gathering went into that letter. I thought it was very, very well done.
We can put that on the draft resolution and have that on the agenda next week.
Can we just agree to send the letter and not do resolutions?
We all, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I say go for it.
Who's signing the letter?
Matt's name. I believe it's 5 commissioners.
Oh,
We just need to put the letter on 2 o'clock consent or?
Yes, I think Mr. Macio would recommend a formal resolution or
Just her letter?
Yeah.
it's a final action.
Well, the final action would be us signing, agreeing to it under consent and signing.
That works.
Okay, let's just do that.
Do you want that by
There's
leave
someone who
today
just-
or on the agenda next week?
Let me just do it on the agenda for next week.
Okay.
And there's a rush to it, so. Unless you feel like we have to respond by today.
Nope. Next week is perfect. The other is
so Matt and I actually have a meeting tomorrow with Matt Anderson, and I believe he is bringing the chair of the Bar Association with him. So it'd be nice to be able to hand that.
Sure.
I mean, if I have permission to hand that letter off, we could
You can say
hand
this
deliver
is the
that
letter
tomorrow.
that's gonna be coming.
Okay, no one has a problem with that? Giving them an early peek at it? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not, okay. And that's what I'll do. I'll hand deliver it to them tomorrow when they're here for the meeting, and we'll take action the following week. I'll get the official copy.
Yeah.
Signatures. Okay.
The other is a request from SYSA, Hoop Fest, and City of Spokane Parks School District, asking if we would sign the board would sign a letter expressing an interest to explore the opportunity of potentially building a sports complex on the soon-to-be declared surplus STA property that Spokane County may want to buy in the future. There's concerns on any board action being considered an indirect supporting of a ballot proposition. My question is, why don't we just wait until after the ballot initiative passes? If they're not going to use it to support the ballot initiative, why do they need it before the ballot initiative?
I mean, I'm okay just saying we're in support. I don't think it has to be speaking to the Together Spokane initiative. I think it's just we're in support of looking at a study. Cause I met with Rick Betts later, and he just said that, if we agree to the study, I think Superintendent Spinner would like to see what letter ahead it might be that we would sign. Yes, he requested that. But I mean, I don't have a problem with saying we're gonna move forward with the study. We can't commit that we're gonna continue on based on that study or any of that. We're just committing to looking at a study to see what that is, because when I met with Rick, he was kind of all over talking about that he didn't like some of the layouts and all that. So I mean, I think we're just agreeing that we'd look at what the potential could be.
I'm wondering if just taking the words of Together Spokane initiative out of the letter and just saying, hey, we're open to exploring use of the, expo, the fairgrounds, and discussing potential facilities for youth and adult, sports facilities. And we just keep it kind of generic and not refer to the particular initiative. That was my suggestion.
One of the question is whether it's a normal and ordinary action by the board. So have we done this sort of thing in the past where we sign a letter saying we're willing to study and look at an opportunity?
I think it is normal. Well, yeah, because I mean, we agreed to at the fairgrounds. People were part of it. But, when Major League Baseball was putting the new standards down, to study what that was. So I think it's timing, but it's like the request is coming in and we're looking at it as an individual request. And
Even if it's not normal, there's gotta be a first time for everything, right? It never becomes normal if we always say no. I mean, it's like.
The risk is that we know that they want to use this letter to support the ballot initiative. That's why they want it before the ballot is voted on. And if it's out of our ordinary course of business, the potential risk is somebody files a claim, violated the OPMA or the Public Disclosure Commission, and the entire ballot initiative is void.
Commissioner Branch.
It's a small risk.
Yeah, well, and they do want to be able to use the letter to promote their efforts in outreach. And I think when I made the initial presentation on this, it was part of their stated interest was we need some presence in the East Central neighborhood, and this would give us an opportunity to develop some recreational opportunities and stuff. But, that's fine. But then when they said, well, we want a letter showing that you guys will work with us, then it becomes a valid issue. And I said, when the first letter came in, that I wouldn't sign it because it does cross the line. And I'm fully aware that and they did the letter totally without any input from me. And stuff. So I don't know whether changing the language to say, instead of saying we're going to study, that we would certainly support collaboration to see if there's feasibility to do it, and just put the whole question with regard to the feasibility of it on the table. And that way we're not committing to doing anything other than collaborating to see if it's even feasible. I'd love to be able to do the commitment, or not commitment. I'd love to express an interest without having to reduce it to writing. I think when you reduce it to writing, then it creates a whole nother level of scrutiny that we don't really want or need, quite honestly. So
if they listen to today's meeting, they will know that we have an interest
Yeah,
And that we probably will not be putting together a lab.
that would be my recommendation. I think the slim risk negative outcome is too strong.
Yeah.
If the board wanted to do this in compliance with the Public Disclosure Commission, we could hold a hearing open to the public and everyone would be able to say whether or not they're in favor of the validation. That's another approach.
But that's not what we're doing. We're not stating our
we are.
support for the ballot measure. We're telling them we'll explore the use of this property if we acquire it. And honestly, the ballot measure could fail. We could still explore the use of of this property if we acquire it in the future. And I don't think that the PDC wouldn't overturn an election. I think that the PDC's teeth come back to a fine. And then the question is, do we get fined or does the school district get fined for using that letter if deemed inappropriate? And it's a long process. There's a whole public disclosure commission, commissioners of the public disclosure commission that would rule on if it was a violation. And I think stating that we would be willing to explore the use of county-owned property at some time in the future, I don't know if that would be something the PDC would say violates anything. I don't.
Should we want to think about it and get back to us next week?
Absolutely. Those are the only two miscellaneous items I had. Two executive session items if we're ready to move on.
Yes.
The first is pending and potential litigation for approximately 30 minutes, no action. Matt Folsom, Scott Simmons, Devin Curda, Jeff McMorris. The second one is pending potential litigation, no action, 10 minutes. Matt Folsom and Scott Simmons.
That one.
Do it.
We'll see. Okay, so we're gonna go into executive session for approximately 40 minutes. No action will be taken. So at the end of that time, we will adjourn for the day and see everybody back tomorrow. Thank you all very much.
On Zoom?
No one on Zoom.